TIL, the very first sci-fi novel, a true story, was written in ancient Greek in the 2nd century AD. It featured space travel, aliens, robots, artificial atmospheres, and more. Its multilayered plot and characters have been interpreted as science fiction, fantasy, satire, or parody, and have been the subject of much scholarly debate. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Is there any way I can read this? Sounds cool. I wouldn't call it the first sci-fi novel but more of the earliest known surviving sci-fi novel, since the article indicates. A true story was written in response to another work that also contained science-fictional elements, that is Antonius Diogenes' Lost of the Wonderful Things Beyond Thule, whose protagonist also reached the moon. Having read the article, I think my favorite thing is that Lucian cuts the story short with a promise of writing more books, and the translation we have has a note basically saying, yeah, that's a fucking lie. Appropriate though. How can a true story be sci-fi? Checkmate, Athenians. He justifies the title by arguing that his is the only truthful mythological story ever written, inasmuch as it is the only one that admits that it is all lies. He also promises a sequel, but it is not known if such a sequel exists. I feel like I would have liked this guy. Greek Geek. The book ends abruptly with Lucian stating that their future adventures will be described in the upcoming sequels, a promise which a disappointed scholiast described as the biggest lie of all. So just like modern sci-fi, wait, so it was the ancient Greeks all along. Aliens. Even though it uses a lot of sci-fi tropes, I would say it was more like fantasy, since none of them were related to any kind of contemporary technology of the time. The first story I think to take current technology and extrapolate the possibilities as well as the moral implications was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Asterisk first science fiction story named True Story Bro. FFTY. The more I learn about people from the past, the more I realize that we're not too different. Ancient Alien takes it as fact though. Lucien hot that Netflix formula down pat. And 1,800 years before them. End on a massive cliffhanger and never produce a sequel. Isn't Norse mythology, Egyptian mythology, Hinduism the first sci-fi books? Interdimensional travel, super-powered creatures and vimanas, flying saucers, in Hinduism. Was it actually a novel? I thought the novel was sort of a 17th century-ish invention. Edit, TIL, thanks Reddit. Can they please make this a show? Not a movie. Too epic for a movie. Yeah, it's sci-fi. My time to shine, boys. Zoologist here. Aliens are spooky. I see a reboot coming soon to a theater near you. I'm thoroughly curious how a civilization that was yet millennia away from even being able to harness the power of electricity, could conceptualize robotic systems. I suppose they just went on the premise of you can somehow build things, building things being a thing that we Greeks know how to do, and ran with it, insert what will become the crutch of the genre, some arbitrary, scientifically worded piece of information that allows for the fictional aspect to play out while maintaining some semblance of scientific continuity, despite not being exactly scientifically observant in the fullest sense. It's fiction, after all. If the authors had the true answers to the questions that allow them to write their books, they would be doing something a lot more productive than writing books, imo. But still, I have to laugh at how absolutely batshit crazy this guy must have sounded to people who came to know of the book. Also, this might be a little tangential, but didn't the Greeks believe the stars were in a fixed distance sphere and that everything rotated around the Earth? I'm not brushed up on my history ATM, but the idea that they could be not only contemplating the existence of the atmosphere, but more significantly contemplating our ability to affect change within it /1, given the implicit limitations of their belief structures, is pretty profound. Actually the first instance of clickbait, as it states that its events are in fact, not real. It would appear that it's actually called True History. What I really like is that it's a satire of all the poets and storytellers who pass off obvious fiction as the truth. He literally says in the opening that unlike all those guys, I'm telling you right now that these are lies in every possible meaning. It's a ridiculous novel, you must read it. Spoiler alert, it can get pretty disgusting with the aliens sweating milk. http://Luciano F. Samosata. info/download/Lucian_true_history. PDF. Who's it by? Trying to find it and the loads of crap that come up are insane due to the words true story. So this isn't true depending on how you define science fiction. For instance, the chariot was essentially like a car for ancient Greeks. Apollo has a flying chariot, flying car. The shield was a great defensive weapon, but Athena has a shield with Medusa's head on it that turns enemies to stone. Want to hurl a spear? PSSH, Zeus throws lightning. Basically the myths are all sci-fi. Damn, that was an entertaining read. Thank you so much for sending me on this deep dive. They find sinners being punished, the worst of them being the ones who had written books with lies and fantasies, including Herodotus and Tisias. You have to admit, Herodotus probably had it coming. Thank you, Op. I think you just gave me the best conversation starter to keep in my bookshelf. I have plenty of weird books, just nothing quite like this. I love it. I did my classical studies thesis on this novel. Cool to see it hit the front page. Definitely a fun and fascinating read, would recommend to anyone who's interested in sci-fi and or ancient history. During my stay on the moon, I saw new and marvelous things, of which I want to tell. First of all, the inhabitants of the moon are not born from females, but from males. They marry amongst males, and they do not even know the word women. Until 25 years of age, each one of them is the wife, and then becomes the husband. When they get pregnant, it's not their belly which grows, but their calf. When the embryo has been conceived, the leg grows bigger, and when the time comes, they cut it open. I figured an excerpt would be useful. Winky. True story. I had to read it in high school. It was so entertaining and strange to see the same taste for adventure and irony of modern writers. I suggest also reading the Satyricon by Petronius for some more adventures, sexy adventures, and for all the young at heart the best ever love story, Daphne and Chloe. There are also pirates. It all came from the Stargate. We have a documentary series about this. I don't want to hear your conspiracy theories. This is clearly a history book. I feel like the small part where the aliens cut off their right testicle and bury it in order to grow robots isn't mentioned enough. I'm so going to save this post and report it in 4 months' time to rake in all those glorious internet points. Just sayin', if these giant spiders are real. I say I am from Buenos Aires and I say kill 'em all. This thread has a lot of how did the ancient Greeks have any thoughts about aliens or future technology? Yeah, no, the same people who invented Western ideology. A fuck ton of mathematics. Pioneers of basically every early form of science. Most philosophy that is still relevant and debated to this day. It's almost like the ancient Greeks were pretty smart or something. After returning to Earth, the adventurers are swallowed by a 200-mile-long, 320 kilometers, whale 1617 in whose belly they discover a variety of fish people, whom they wage war against and triumph over. 1718 they kill the whale by starting a bonfire and escape by propping its mouth open. Inspiration for Pinocchio, or just coincidence? You are wrong. The first sci-fi novel was Sumerian 4000 B.C. And it was supposed to be their history, not a story. The original Sumerian Gilgamesh, Icarus, Hercules, all of them. It's highly debated as to what the first science fiction novel is. Some cite the work of Aristophanes, others the Epic of Gilgamesh. But generally it's agreed upon that science fiction, as it understood in the modern context, was created with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.